ravine, into the ravine of Wadi el-Kelt. You can clearly see Wadi el-Kelt. Be careful, please. Okay, and the cliffs of Wadi el-Kelt, which are very deep. St. George's Monastery is a little bit further near us, and you can see Wadi el-Kelt, which goes all the way down in front of us. Can you see this roundish top of a mountain is colored white? Okay, this is the fortress of Kypros, right in front of us. The fortress of Kypros. Kypros was the mother of King Herod. Okay, Kypros. It was a Hasmonean fortress, and on top of it, King Herod built here his fortress. Okay, and it's a part of what we said about the desert fortresses that were located in that area. Remember, we spoke about Vulcania, in the valley of Vulcania. We have here Kypros. A little bit further up, we'll see on the mountaintop an antenna, right? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a military base, belongs to the IDF, called Daya. And to the left of the antenna of the military base, we're able to see like a top of a mountain which is flat. This is the fortress of Dagon. Second Temple times, there used to be here another fortress belongs to the desert, to the desert borderline. And underneath that is what is called the mountain of the 40, the Karantal, the mountain of the 40 days that Jesus had the temptation with the devil. For 40 days, the devil tried Jesus in the desert in different ways. Mount of the temptation. It's over there, right underneath this flat area. Okay, and there is a monastery called Karantal over there. That is devoted. Karantal. He is devoted for the story of the temptation that Jesus went through by the devil from over here. Okay. By the way, this story has become a huge inspiration for the monastic movement of the Judean desert. Also, what the monasteries and the monks do in their monasteries is to try and cope with the temptations of the devil all the time, just like Jesus said here in the Mount of Karantal. So this is why there's another monastery over there. By the way, the current monastery of Karantal is based on top of a monastery from the time of Charitun. Remember Charitun from the riverbed of En Prat?
Yes.
And what he killed, Charitun, in a certain point in his life, he started to wander around different areas of the desert. This is what all the monastics in the early times did. And in a certain point, he arrives to that area, to the fortress of Dagon. That's how it was called in the Second Temple times, okay, in the 1st century AD. Okay, and Charitun was here in the 4th century, and he based off one of his other monasteries here in the Mount Karantal. Okay. By the way, the top of the mountain is flat because there's still a fence over there that the monks from Karantal went up. It was the beginning of the 20th century, and they started to build a monastery on the top of the mountain because Karantal is in the middle of the mountain, but they had to stop because the break of the First World War. So it's just stayed as it is. If you go visit there, you're going to see the ruins of what the monks started to build. Underneath Kypros, Daya, and Karantal, we can see the valley of Jericho. Okay, we're able to see that the western frontier, the western borderline of Jericho is the mountain side of the Judean desert, and the fall of the cliffs of the Judean desert into the valley of Jericho and the Jordan Valley as a whole. Okay. On the northern side, there is a small range of a chain of mountains that is a borderline from the northern side of Jericho. Okay, in the eastern side of Jericho, it's the Jordan Valley. Yes, and on the southern side, there were times of Jericho when Jericho was so flourishing, so big, that it went all the way down to the northern side of the Sea of Galilee, long time ago. And Jericho Dead Sea. You're right. And even was activating a port in the Dead Sea that connected the people of Jericho, the merchants of the people of Jericho, between the other side, the Jordanian side, the Moab Mountains, and also some other sites toward the southern part of the Dead Sea, because throughout the history it wasn't always, they weren't able to walk alongside the banks of the Dead Sea. Some of them, sometimes the water was too high in order to walk on these banks. So that is why people used boats. You've seen the map of Madaba. We clearly see people on boats with some products on the boat, which they used in the 6th century over here. Okay, I'm going back to Jericho. Inside of Jericho, in 2 weeks you're going to have a lecture over the tourism site in the West Bank. Okay, and you're gonna speak about Jericho, and you can understand from over here. Jericho has the archaeological tell, the archaeological hill in the middle of the ancient city of Jericho, which goes all the way to the 10,000 years BCE. It's one of the most ancient cities in the world. Okay, and there's a hole there that was exposed over there in the city of Jericho from the Neolithic period, and it's very, very impressive and important. Yes, and it's Tel El Sultan. Yes, the archaeological tell is called Tel El Sultan. It's in the middle of Jericho, middle towards west, and it's also the visitor center is over there, and also the ability to go on the cable car to Karantal. So Tel El Sultan is located on the most important thing of Jericho in ancient times and also today. What is it? Where is the archaeological tell? The historical center of Jericho is located right nearby to what?
Mount of Temptation.
قصر هشام.
No?
Spring.
Spring.
Very important. One of the most important things in ancient cities is a spring. Okay? Mayan Elisha, the spring of Elisha, the spring of Elisha. Yes? Which according to the biblical story, Elisha repaired the water of the spring and made them out of, become from a water that were not good for drinking, for a water which became fresh water, sweet water to use. Okay, so this is Jericho. We have different periods of time that Jericho was flourishing and was in its peak during the Hasmoneans, during King Herod's time. Okay, throughout the history, during the 7th century of the house of Umayyah, the early Muslim period was a very important period of Jericho. Okay, and one of the key things about Jericho is the ability to draw water, to bring water from the springs of Wadi el-Kelt into the city of Jericho. So of course we understand why Jericho needs water, but the most important thing about bringing water from the springs of Wadi el-Kelt is connected to the soil. The whole territories, the whole soil of the northern part of this Dead Sea, today these are cultivated areas by the kibbutzim of this area. The key point in order to cultivate the land of Jericho and its surrounding is the ability of the government to wash the soil from the salt. If you know how to wash the soil from salt, you can make this place from a very bad, non-potential at all, flourishing place. Okay, so in cases that the regime, the local regime in the land of Israel was strong enough, they would bring water from Wadi el-Kelt and wash the soil and bring out the potential of Jericho along the history. And in other times, in other periods of times when it was the opposite, it wasn't fulfilling its potential. By the way, during the military regime over Jericho in the 80s, that's what they did. They washed the whole soil, and 75% of the cultivated products, of the agricultural products of the West Bank came from Jericho. Yes, it's the same thing. Okay, so this is the key thing about Jericho. Also about all the territories that are cultivated up until today in that area. And what else do we see? I want to go a little bit further to the right. Okay, we see the riverbed of the stream of Og onto my right. Okay, we see the place with the water. It's a place where they take used water, sewage water, and they bring them into a process of desalinization. Yes, and it's located over here in the valley of Horkanya. Okay, a little bit further up is the Dead Sea in the Moab Mountains, where we see all the green spots are the kibbutzim of that area, yes, of Almog, and of course Beit HaArava. Remember Beit HaArava, Beit HaMa'abara, Beit Obara. We can see somehow a line that goes all the way from the northern part of the sea of the Dead Sea towards north, and it's a green line. Okay, we can hardly see it from over here. This is the Jordan River. Okay, so we can somehow understand where the Jordan River goes through, and along that line we can also identify the point of Kasser El Yehud. Okay, it's very hard to see it from over here, but we can see the areas of Kasser El Yehud beyond the green territories and alongside the green line of the Jordan River. Okay, so this is what we see. Basically, we've reached into the end of the tour today. To wrap up everything that we saw, we started today early morning in Castrum Rouge, the place that tells the story of the Judean desert, of the geology of the Judean desert. Later on, also the story of the road, which is a modern road, but also sits on an ancient road, and the strategic importance of the place, and the fact that this place always had some kind of an inn or a motel or a hotel for people that went through that point. Okay. After that, we visited in the Good Samaritan Museum. First of all, we did another outlook. Yes, we spoke about Khan el-Ahmar and also other things in the area. Then we continued into the church, the excavated Byzantine church that exists over there, and we told the story of the Good Samaritan. We spoke over there also about the geography, the sacred geography of the land of Israel, and how the things were identified in the text, in the holy text, and they were aligned with the sacred geography as we know it today. For example, the place of the Good Samaritan and the motel of the Good Samaritan. After that, we had some free time, and then from over there we continued to St. George's Monastery to open up with the chapter that deals with the monastic movement, the Christian monastic movement of the 4th, 5th, 6th century, okay, that went downhill in the 7th century with the end of the Byzantine era. Okay, we saw a monastery from the 5th century, which is built right on the cliff area, which is called after a sacred monk. His name is Saint George of Kuzeva. Okay, from over there we continued to Nebi Musa. We spoke about the feast of Nebi Musa, about first of all the Makam of Nebi Musa, the identification of a place where Prophet Moses probably is buried, a certain tradition around where his burial site, and we spoke also about why there's the feast of Nebi Musa is connected to Pascha and also to the main pilgrims road that connected between Jerusalem and the Jordan River. From over there we've continued to Almog Junction. We ate lunch in Almog, and from over there we went to Kasser El Yehud, one of the most important places for Christians, pilgrims in the Holy Land, probably the third most important, the authentic site where the Israelites crossed the Jordan River and entered into the Promised Land, the place where other miracles happened, like the ascension of Elijah up to the heavens, and also other, there are quite a few more stories about it, but we won't go in it. And of course, the place that is recognized, the authentic baptism site of Jesus, where his godly side suddenly appeared, and that's why it's called the Epiphany. Okay, the Epiphany. And from over there, from Kasser El Yehud, we continue a bit further south to Dir Hajle, one of the ancient monasteries that were left still functioning by the Greek Orthodox Patriarchy, and has different phases from different periods of time. And today it's just a beautiful place for pilgrims to come and visit in Dir Hajle. From over there, we went back to road number 1. We left road number 90, went back to road number 1 east, and we took a turn into Mitzpe Jericho. Yes, this community that is located right on the cliff side of overlooking the Jericho Valley, the Valley of Jericho, and the Valley of the Jordan River. Great.